Most men live and die as pawns. They follow rules they didn't write, obey systems designed to keep them small, and wait for permission. Permission to rise, permission to speak, permission to be. They spend their entire lives chasing comfort, mistaking stillness for safety, mistaking silence for peace. And when life finally breaks them, when the years pile up and nothing has changed, they call it fate, they call it bad luck. They blame the world, the economy, the people around them. They blame everything except the one thing that was always in their control, themselves. But kings never blamed the game. Kings studied it. They watched, they calculated, they moved in silence. And then, coldly, precisely, without a single apology, they rewrote it on their own terms. What you're about to hear is not motivation. This is not a speech designed to make you feel good for an hour and forget by morning. This is a code, a cold, ruthless, unbreakable code that the most powerful men in history lived by. 10 laws, 10 ruthless laws that separate kings from commoners. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Law 1. Never reveal your full power. Most men cannot wait to show you what they have. They flash their plans, broadcast their moves, announce their ambitions to anyone willing to listen. They confuse visibility with power. They think being seen means being respected. But here is the first law every king lives by, and it is one of the most violated rules in the lives of ordinary men. Never reveal your full power, not to your enemies, not to your allies, not even to the people who claim to love you. The moment the world knows the full extent of what you are capable of, you lose your greatest weapon, mystery. Power without mystery is just performance, and performance invites challengers. Machiavelli understood this with surgical precision. He wrote that a ruler who exposes all his strengths gives his enemies a map, a clear, detailed map of exactly where to strike. The king who conceals his depth forces every man around him to guess. And men who are guessing are men who are afraid. Let them underestimate you. Let them think they have you figured out. Let them grow comfortable, because the moment a man grows comfortable around you, he stops watching. And the moment he stops watching is the moment you move. This is not deception for the sake of manipulation. This is strategic restraint. It is the discipline to hold more than you show, to know more than you speak, to be more than anyone in the room has calculated. The wolf does not announce the hunt. The storm does not warn the city, and the king, the real king, does not reveal his hand until the game is already won. Keep them guessing, always. Law 2. Emotion is a weapon. Never let it be used against you. Here is something they will never teach you in school, never whisper to you in church, and never print in the books designed to keep you manageable. Your emotions, uncontrolled, are not your humanity. They are your vulnerability. Every tear you shed in the wrong room, every burst of anger you unleash at the wrong moment, every time you let frustration crack your face in front of the wrong person, you are handing them a weapon, a loaded weapon, and they will use it. Maybe not today, maybe not openly, but they will file it away, catalog it, and when the moment serves them, they will press exactly that button and watch you destroy yourself while they stand back and smile. This is the second law every king lives by. Emotion is a weapon. Never let it be used against you. This does not mean you become hollow. This does not mean you carve out your chest and walk through the world as a machine. Stoicism was never about the absence of feeling. It was about the mastery of it. The king feels everything, the betrayal, the rage, the grief, the hunger, but he processes it in private, refines it into fuel, and returns to the battlefield composed, calculated, and completely unreadable. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while carrying losses that would have broken ordinary men. He buried sons. He fought wars on every border. He watched corruption rot the institutions he dedicated his life to. And yet, he never let the chaos outside become the chaos inside. That discipline, that ironclad internal order, was not weakness dressed as strength. It was the source of his power. Because the man who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. The man who does not flinch cannot be intimidated, and the man who masters his own emotional landscape becomes a fortress, visible to all, penetrable by none. So the next time someone tries to bait you into rage, the next time someone deliberately pokes at your pride, your insecurity, your past, go cold. Not with words, not with threats, just go cold. Let your silence answer. Let your stillness unsettle them. Let them realize, slowly and uncomfortably, that they cannot reach you. That is not emotional suppression. That is dominance, and kings wear it like armor. Law 3. Loyalty is earned in silence, not declared in words. Listen carefully, because this law will save you from some of the most painful lessons a man can learn. The most dangerous people in your life will not arrive wearing masks. They will not introduce themselves as threats. They will come bearing warmth. They will come with smiles, with loyalty speeches, with declarations of brotherhood so convincing that you will open doors you should have kept locked. And then, when the season changes, when your power shifts, when your resources dry up, when the storm arrives, they will vanish, not dramatically, not with confrontation. They will simply disappear, quietly, cleanly, as if they were never there. And you will be left standing in the wreckage, replaying every moment, asking yourself how you missed it. This is the third law every king lives by. Loyalty is earned in silence, not declared in words. Machiavelli was brutally clear on this. He warned that men who surround themselves with flatterers are men who have already begun their descent. Because flattery is not loyalty. It is strategy. It is the language of those who need something from you, dressed up to look like devotion. Real loyalty does not announce itself. It does not make speeches at the dinner table or post declarations in public. Real loyalty shows up at 3 in the morning when everything has collapsed. Real loyalty stays when there is nothing left to gain. Real loyalty is proven not in the moments of celebration but in the moments of crisis, when standing beside you costs something. So stop measuring the people around you by what they say. Stop letting words substitute for evidence. Watch what they do when you are struggling. Watch how they speak about you when you are not in the room. Watch whether their energy towards you changes when your status changes. Because people reveal their true nature not in comfort, but in pressure. A king does not build his inner circle on charm and conversation. He builds it on proof. He moves in silence. He observes without announcing his observations, and he promotes only those who have demonstrated, through action, through sacrifice, through consistency, that they are worthy of proximity to power. Your circle should be small. Your trust should be scarce. And your loyalty, the loyalty you extend to others, should be the most expensive thing you own. Law 4. Control the narrative or someone else will. There is a war happening right now, and most men don't even know they're in it. It is not fought with weapons. It is not decided on battlefields. It is fought with perception, with stories, with the carefully constructed image that the world holds of you in its mind. And here is the brutal truth that kings understand and commoners ignore. You are always being perceived. Every room you walk into, every word you speak, every decision you make or fail to make, it is all being processed, interpreted, and filed away by the people around you. The question is never whether a narrative exists about you. The question is whether you are the one writing it. This is the fourth law every king lives by. Control the narrative or someone else will. Machiavelli understood that the prince who allowed others to define him was already halfway to his own destruction, because perception, once set, hardens like concrete. Once people decide what you are, weak, unstable, predictable, desperate, it takes 10 times the effort to dismantle that image than it would have taken to build the right one from the beginning. This is why kings are deliberate. This is why kings are intentional about everything: their words, their silences, their appearances, their absences. They understand that mystery is a form of authority, that the man who speaks less is assumed to know more, that the man who is rarely seen is assumed to be always moving. Every calculated silence you hold is a sentence in the narrative you are writing about yourself. Every time you refuse to explain yourself to people who have no right to an explanation, you are reinforcing your power. Every time you walk away from a provocation without reacting, you are authoring a story that says, "This man cannot be rattled." But controlling the narrative goes deeper than silence and image management. It means understanding that information is currency. What you share, what you withhold, what you allow people to believe, these are not passive outcomes. They are choices. The king decides what the court knows. He decides which version of himself the world receives, not through lies, through framing, through selective revelation, through the disciplined art of showing only what serves his position and concealing what would invite attack. Think about the most powerful men you have ever observed. Not the loudest ones, the powerful ones. Notice how they never over-explain. Notice how they never scramble to correct every misperception. Notice how they carry themselves as though the story of who they are has already been written, already been settled, and requires no defense. That is not arrogance. That is a man who understands that self-possession is the foundation of all external power. Because before you can control a room, a relationship, a kingdom, you must first control the story, your story. Write it with intention, guard it with discipline, and never, never hand the pen to someone else. Law 5. Isolation is the beginning of domination. Most men are terrified of being alone, not physically alone, strategically alone, alone in their thinking, alone in their decisions, alone in the cold, uncomfortable space where no one is validating them, no one is applauding them, no one is telling them they are on the right path. They surround themselves with noise because silence forces confrontation. Confrontation with who they actually are, what they actually want, and how far they actually are from the life they claim to be building. So they fill every moment, every gap, every quiet hour that could have been used for reflection gets buried under distraction, conversation, entertainment, anything to avoid the unbearable weight of their own unexamined mind. And this is precisely why they remain ordinary. This is the fifth law every king lives by. Isolation is the beginning of domination, not isolation as punishment, not isolation as loneliness, but isolation as strategy, the deliberate, disciplined withdrawal from the noise of the world in order to sharpen the weapon that matters most, your mind. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be a student of war even in times of peace, and the deepest form of that war is the internal one, the battle against distraction, the battle against consensus thinking, the battle against the slow, suffocating pressure of the crowd that wants you to want what they want, think what they think, and settle where they have settled. The kings of history understood something that the masses never grasped. Greatness is not a group activity. Caesar did not consult the crowd before crossing the Rubicon. Napoleon did not build his military genius through committee. The great conquerors, the great philosophers, the great architects of power, they all shared one habit that set them apart from every man around them. They went inward, regularly, ruthlessly, without apology. They created space between themselves and the world, and in that space they developed a clarity that men who are constantly surrounded simply cannot access. Because when you are always connected, always available, always responding, you are always reactive. And reactive men do not build empires. They maintain chaos. Strategic isolation rewires you. It forces you to develop a relationship with your own thinking that most men never cultivate. It teaches you to trust your own judgment over the applause or criticism of people who do not carry your vision. It builds what no external achievement ever can, an unshakable internal foundation, a core so solid that when the world outside becomes turbulent, and it will become turbulent, you do not crack, you do not scatter, you do not reach desperately for the nearest warm body to tell you everything is going to be fine. You go still. You go quiet, and from that stillness, you decide. This is what separates the king from the man who merely wishes to be one. The wisher needs the crowd. He needs the validation, the agreement, the constant reassurance that he is moving in the right direction. The king needs none of it. He has done the work in private. He has sat with his own doubts and interrogated them until they either transformed into conviction or dissolved entirely. He has stress-tested his own thinking in the silence of isolation until what remained was not hope, but certainty. So if the people around you cannot understand why you have grown quieter, why you have pulled back, why you no longer need to be present in every room and every conversation, do not explain yourself. Let them misread your withdrawal as weakness. Let them confuse your silence for defeat. Because while they are busy talking about you, you are busy becoming untouchable. Drop "Silence is my strategy" in the comments if this law just hit different. Law 6. Never move from desperation. Always move from power. There is a frequency that the most powerful men in history learn to detect in others and ruthlessly exploit. It is not anger. It is not arrogance. It is not even stupidity. It is desperation. That quiet, barely concealed urgency that leaks through a man's words when he needs something too badly. That slight tremor in the voice when the stakes feel too high. That over-explaining, that over-justifying, that compulsive need to convince, all of it broadcasting one singular message to every predator in the room. I need this. I cannot afford to lose this. I am not operating from strength. And the moment that signal goes out, the dynamic shifts. Prices go up, terms get worse, respect evaporates, because power, real power, has always been gravitational. It does not chase, it does not beg. It does not arrive breathless and anxious at the negotiating table. It arrives settled, composed, carrying the quiet, unspoken authority of a man who knows that if this particular door does not open, he will build another one. This is the 6th law every king lives by. Never move from desperation, always move from power. Machiavelli observed that the prince who appears needy invites manipulation the way blood invites predators. Because human nature, stripped of its social polish and moral veneer, is fundamentally opportunistic. People do not consciously decide to exploit the desperate. They are simply drawn to the advantage the way water flows downhill. It is not malice, it is mechanics. And the king who understands this mechanic does not resent it. He uses it. He ensures that he is never the one bleeding in the water. He manages his energy, his resources and his options with such deliberate precision that desperation becomes structurally impossible. Not because his life is without pressure, every king carries pressure that would crush ordinary men, but because he has built enough internal and external leverage that no single outcome holds him hostage. This is the deeper teaching behind the law. It is not simply about appearing confident in negotiations or maintaining composure in difficult conversations. Although both of those matter enormously, it is about architectural power. It is about building your life in such a way that you always have options, always have alternatives, always have the ability to walk away. Because the man who can walk away from the table controls the table. The man who cannot walk away has already surrendered his power before the conversation even begins. Think about every moment in your own life when you moved from desperation. When you needed the job too badly and they sensed it and lowballed you. When you needed the relationship too badly and they sensed it and took you for granted. When you needed the approval too badly and they sensed it and withheld it, using it as a leash. Desperation is not just uncomfortable, it is expensive. It costs you money, respect, time, and the one currency no man can afford to spend carelessly: dignity. The king builds his life as a deliberate antidote to this. He cultivates multiple streams of income, so no single employer owns his survival. He cultivates depth within himself, so no single relationship owns his emotional stability. He cultivates skills, knowledge, and vision so relentlessly that opportunity begins to pursue him rather than the other way around. And when he walks into any room, any negotiation, any confrontation, any moment of high stakes, he carries with him the most disarming, most powerful energy a human being can project. Indifference to the outcome. Not apathy, not carelessness, but the clean, unshakable confidence of a man who has already decided that he will be fine regardless. That energy is not performed. It cannot be faked for long. It must be built through discipline, through preparation, through the slow accumulation of options that transforms a desperate man into an untouchable one. Move from power, always, only, every single time. Law 7. Your enemies are your greatest teachers, never waste them. Most men handle enemies the way children handle pain. They flinch, they retreat, they spend enormous energy trying to make it stop as quickly as possible. They lose sleep over people who oppose them. They waste hours in bitterness, rehearsing arguments in their heads, replaying betrayals, nursing wounds that they themselves keep reopening with the obsessive fingers of their own resentment. They treat opposition as an interruption, an unwelcome intrusion into the life they were supposed to be living undisturbed. And in doing so, they throw away one of the most valuable resources a man in pursuit of power will ever be given. This is the 7th law every king lives by. Your enemies are your greatest teachers. Never waste them. Understand this with absolute clarity. The people who oppose you, underestimate you, betray you, and attempt to dismantle you are performing a service that your closest allies never can. Your allies see you through the warm filter of affection. They soften their assessments. They protect your feelings. They tell you what you want to hear because they value the relationship over the truth. But your enemies study you with the cold, unforgiving precision of a surgeon. They find every crack in your armor. They identify every inconsistency in your character. They probe every weakness in your strategy with the relentless focus of men who are motivated to see you fail. And that intelligence, that ruthless, unfiltered intelligence, is priceless if you are wise enough to receive it. Machiavelli wrote that a prince who is never challenged never truly discovers the full measure of his own capability. Because capability, real capability, is not revealed in comfort. It is not discovered in the moments when everything is going according to plan and the people around you are cooperative and the resources are flowing and the path is clear. Capability is forged in resistance. It is hammered into shape by opposition. It is refined, like metal in fire, by the very forces that were designed to destroy it. Think about every significant leap in your own development. Every time you genuinely grew, not incrementally, not slightly, but transformed, it was preceded by a period of serious adversity, a betrayal that forced you to become more discerning, a failure that exposed a blind spot you had been too comfortable to examine, an enemy whose attack revealed a vulnerability in your position that, once addressed, made you exponentially more formidable. The enemy did not weaken you. The enemy upgraded you, but only because you chose to learn rather than simply suffer. This is the distinction that separates kings from men who are merely enduring their lives. Both face opposition, both experience betrayal, both encounter people who work actively against their interests. The difference is what they do with it. The ordinary man consumes his opposition emotionally. He lets it poison his mood, corrupt his judgment, and drain the energy he needs for building. The king consumes his opposition strategically. He extracts every lesson, identifies every pattern, strengthens every weakness the enemy was kind enough to illuminate, and returns to the field not just intact but evolved. There is another dimension to this law that most men miss entirely. Your enemies keep you sharp in a way that comfort never can. The presence of genuine opposition forces you to remain disciplined, remain vigilant, remain hungry. It prevents the slow, invisible rot of complacency that destroys more kings than any external enemy ever could. A man with no opposition grows soft without realizing it. A man who is regularly challenged grows harder, faster, more precise with every encounter. So the next time someone rises against you, The next time a betrayal lands, the next time an opponent emerges, the next time the world pushes back against your ascent, do not collapse into bitterness. Do not waste the gift. Sit with it, study it. Ask yourself what it is revealing about where you are vulnerable, where your strategy has gaps, where your character still has room to harden. Then take that intelligence, fold it into your architecture, and rise in a form that your enemy never anticipated and cannot recognize. Because the king who learns from every enemy becomes something that no single enemy, and no collection of enemies, can ever truly defeat. He does not just survive opposition, he feeds on it. Law 8. Time is the most ruthless currency. Spend it like a king. There is a theft happening in your life right now. It is not violent, it carries no weapon. It does not break down your door or announce its arrival. It moves quietly, invisibly, with a patience so absolute that most men do not even notice what is being taken until decades have passed and the loss is irreversible. The theft is of your time, and the thief is not your enemies, not the system, not the circumstances you were born into. The thief is you. Every hour surrendered to distraction. Every morning wasted in the fog of undisciplined routine. Every evening dissolved into mindless consumption while the vision you claim to carry sits untouched, gathering dust in the corner of a life that keeps almost starting. This is the 8th law every king lives by. Time is the most ruthless currency. Spend it like a king. Machiavelli understood that the prince who could not command his own hours could never command a kingdom, because how a man spends his time is not a logistical detail, it is a declaration. It declares what he values above his words, above his intentions, above every promise he has ever made to himself in a moment of temporary inspiration. Your calendar is your confession. It reveals, with brutal honesty, exactly who you are and what you are actually committed to. Not what you say you are committed to, but what you have proven through the irreversible expenditure of your most finite resource. Kings treat time with the same cold precision they apply to every other strategic asset. They audit it, they protect it, they eliminate without mercy every obligation, every relationship, every habit that does not serve the construction of the life they are building. They understand that saying yes to one thing is always saying no to something else, and they make that trade consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of the cost. The ordinary man lives reactively inside his own hours. He responds to whatever is loudest, whatever is most urgent, whatever demand lands in front of him first. He ends each day having been busy, genuinely, exhaustingly busy, and yet somehow no closer to the things that actually matter. Because busyness is not progress, motion is not direction, and activity without intention is just a sophisticated form of standing still. The king structures his time around his priorities, not his pressures. He identifies the handful of actions that compound, the work, the study, the discipline, the relationships, that build towards something permanent and significant. And he protects those actions with a ferocity that most men reserve only for their most prized possessions. Because time is his most prized possession. It is the one resource that cannot be recovered, cannot be borrowed, cannot be earned back through any amount of effort or intelligence or will. Every hour is a stone laid in the architecture of your legacy, or a stone discarded on the ground of distraction. You do not get to go back and retrieve the discarded ones. You only get to decide right now, in this moment, what you do with the ones still remaining. So examine your days with the cold eye of a strategist. Identify where your hours are leaking. Identify the habits, the people, the platforms, the conversations that are consuming your most valuable currency and returning nothing of substance. Then cut them. Not gradually, not apologetically, cut them. A king does not negotiate with waste, he eliminates it. He builds his days like fortresses, structured, intentional, impenetrable to the trivial, because he understands that the man who masters his time masters his destiny, and the man who surrenders his time surrenders everything. Law 9. Never celebrate publicly. Let your results speak in silence. There is a mistake that men make at the exact moment they should be most disciplined, the moment of victory. They win something. They achieve something. They break through a barrier that took months, sometimes years, of silent grinding to overcome. And the first instinct, the deeply human, deeply ordinary instinct, is to announce it, to post it, to tell people, to let the world know that they have arrived, that the sacrifice was worth it, that they were right all along. And in that single moment of public celebration, they hand back a significant portion of the power they just earned. This is the 9th law every king lives by. Never celebrate publicly. Let your results speak in silence. Machiavelli warned that the prince who broadcasts his victories invites two things simultaneously: the envy of his enemies and the complacency of his own spirit. Because there is a psychological mechanism inside every man that once it receives external validation, begins to relax. The applause becomes a substitute for the next level of work. The recognition becomes a resting place. And slowly, without even noticing, the hunger that built the victory begins to dissolve in the warm bath of public approval. Kings understand that the announcement of a victory is the beginning of its erosion. The moment you tell the world what you have built, you give the world a target. You give your competitors a benchmark to study and surpass. You give your enemies a specific point of attack, and you give yourself the most dangerous gift of all: satisfaction. Because satisfied men do not build empires. Hungry men do. The most formidable figures in the architecture of power were never the loudest in the room after a win. They were the quietest. They received their victory internally, extracted the lesson from it, identified the next objective, and moved, without fanfare, without performance, without the need for anyone else's acknowledgement to confirm the reality of what they had accomplished. Their silence was not humility in the conventional sense. It was strategic. It was the cold, calculated decision to let the accumulation of results do the speaking that most men exhaust themselves doing with words. Because results, stacked silently over time, create an aura that no announcement ever could. They create inevitability, the sense that this man has been moving, building, compounding, long before you noticed, and will continue long after your attention moves elsewhere. So the next time you win something, close the deal, finish the work, reach the milestone, resist the performance, sit with it privately, let it fuel you rather than define you. Let it be one stone in a wall that you are still building, not a trophy to be displayed before the wall is even finished. Move in silence, build in silence, win in silence, and let the world discover what you have become only when it is already too late to stop you. Comment: "My silence is my power. If you build in the dark and shine without permission." Law 10. The king's final code: become someone the world cannot ignore. Every law we have walked through tonight has been pointing to this. Every principle, every warning, every cold truth has been building toward one singular destination: the creation of a man so self-possessed, so strategically formidable, so deeply rooted in his own power that the world has no choice but to reckon with him. Not because he demanded attention, not because he chased relevance, but because he did the work, in silence, in discipline, in the unwitnessed hours when every ordinary man chose comfort over construction, and became something that simply cannot be ignored. This is the 10th and final law every king lives by: become someone the world cannot ignore. And understand what that means at its deepest level. It does not mean becoming famous. It does not mean becoming loud, controversial, or deliberately provocative. It means reaching a level of internal development, strategic clarity, and compounded excellence so undeniable that your presence alone shifts the atmosphere of every room you enter. That is not mythology. That is the natural result of a man who has applied every law in this code with consistency and ruthless honesty. The man who never reveals his full power keeps the world permanently intrigued. The man who masters his emotions becomes unshakable under pressure. The man who builds loyalty through proof rather than words constructs a circle that holds under the weight of real adversity. The man who controls his narrative writes his own legacy. The man who embraces strategic isolation sharpens a mind that consensus thinking could never produce. The man who moves from power rather than desperation commands every room he enters. The man who learns from his enemies evolves faster than his opposition can track. The man who spends his time like a king builds compounding results that dwarf the efforts of men working without intention. The man who celebrates in silence keeps his hunger alive and his targets protected. And the man who brings all of these laws together, who lives them not as occasional strategies, but as a daily, non-negotiable code, becomes something rare. Something that this world, despite all its noise and distraction and mediocrity, cannot help but notice. Machiavelli's greatest insight was never about manipulation or cruelty. It was about this: the world responds to power, not aggression, not arrogance, but the quiet, undeniable, accumulative power of a man who knows exactly who he is, exactly where he is going, and cannot be moved, bought, broken, or distracted from his path. That is the king. That is the code. And now it belongs to you. The question that remains, the only question that has ever mattered, is whether you will carry it or set it down the moment life gets uncomfortable. Kings are not born, they are built, law by law, day by day, choice by choice. Now go build. Drop "I am the code" in the comments if you just claimed every one of these 10 laws as your own. If this code reached something in you, something that has been waiting to be awakened, hit that like button, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind, and turn on notifications. Because what is coming next will go even deeper. The kings who are ready, they never miss a lesson, and you are already here. That means something.